Good evening, everyone. And thanks, Rob. Avondale Heights, it's a very good suburb. On a night where we celebrate everyone who's made the journey here and who are Australians by choice, I'd like to begin by acknowledging Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders who are Australians by birth. I pay my respects to the traditional owners of the land upon which we meet and to their elders, both past and present. Like all but the first Australians, I too am the proud descendant of migrants. I am the son of a Geordie seafarer. Geordie land is a part of England in the northeast, not quite Scotland, but certainly not quite happy to be English. My father's family lived there for a very long time. In fact, one of my father's family decided to trace our family history. Not that my family has any Latin mottos, but it was great. I saw a family tree of my family in 1846, and I discovered that of the 46 or 48 ancestors listed, 22 of them came from the same area called W House. And I thought, fantastic, what a village that must be. Until I discovered that it was called the Workhouse. And in fact, my family were from all parts of England. Then I looked at my mum's family tree. Now, like, indeed, dare I say it, like those great leaders of AMC, Peter and Angie Scanlon, some of my family are Irish. Now, they got here before my dad did in the 1960s. It was the considered opinion of the British legal system in the 1830s that my great-great-great-great-great-great-great uncle, Thomas Minahan, formerly a native of County Limerick, via London and the London Assizes, got to spend 7 years in Australia, all meals paid for, at least on the ship across. Anyway, this is the robust DNA which helps contribute to me to be the first in my family to be a Member of Parliament and the distinct privilege that that is. But can I say, as a Member of Parliament, how excellent it is when you get a chance to have a Speaker of the quality of Lee Kung-shin here with us tonight. Many of us have read the book, seen the film. I think everyone draws inspiration from your story. As Carmel Guerra on my table was saying to me after you spoke, she said, Lee, that you are a great example of someone who can speak to the unconverted about the power of multiculturalism, and you leave no one unconvinced when you finish speaking. Thank you very much. Mao's last answer is vivid proof to everyone here that no matter what hardship you face in the land of your birth, no matter how oppressed you might be by authority or by poverty, it is still hard. It is always hard. It is always an emotional wrench to leave your homeland knowing that you will not grow old with the children you went to school with, that you will not grow old necessarily hearing all the songs you heard when you were a child, that your dreams will have to be different, perhaps, to those you might have had when you were little. There's a passage from Mao's last answer, which I'm sure many of you may recall, as Lee's father's story about the frog in the well. The frog looking up at the tiny circle of sky and dreaming of a richer life in a brighter, wider world. It was a story about striving for a better life beyond the fate assigned to you. It is the story of the migrant dream. Since Prime Minister Ben Chifley and the world's first immigration minister, Arthur Corwell, began the modern migration story in October of 1945 in Australia, more than 7.5 million migrants, 7.5 million migrants have come to Australia seeking new opportunities and a better life. In doing so, these 7.5 million people have broadened our view. They've opened Australian eyes to a brighter and more wondrous world around us. I believe that in seeking a better life for their families, Australia's migrants have made Australia a better country. We understand, you wouldn't be here if you didn't understand this, that our migrants have transformed our country from an isolated outpost of empire to a vibrant, prosperous, multicultural nation. In particular, since the Second World War, millions of migrants have set the entrepreneurial example. They've launched the startups, they've taken the risks. They've opened the law firms, the restaurants, the corner shops, the market gardens, the childcare centres. Australia's migrants have worked long hours and the holiday shifts. They've stacked shelves, they've driven trams and they've driven taxis. And for all that migration has added to our national prosperity, the cultural enrichment of Australia's immigration has been even greater still. Before 1945, we were principally a nation of two traditions, a marginalised Indigenous tradition and a dominant British tradition. Mass post-war migration has gifted us a tradition woven from all the people, all the countries, all the cultures of the world. In the 1950s and 1960s, it was perhaps the best expression at that elusive spearmint of Parliament, the bipartisan tradition. From Robert Menzies to the trade union movement, who had never experienced full employment up to World War II. From Corwell and Menzies to organised labour, opening the doors to migration, a great story of what this country can accomplish when we work together. And I think part of what makes Australia a successful multicultural nation is in that contract of Australian citizenship, which we offer all of our citizens, is the promise that we will protect Australians from prejudice and hateful speech. In this debate about speech, we need to put ourselves in the shoes of those who come here seeking a second chance, a better life, freedom from persecution, freedom from bigotry in their own country. There are many respected experts today from across the political spectrum who strongly argue that the repeal of Section 18C of the Racial Discrimination Act would remove an important safeguard against prejudice. It risks providing a foothold for divisive, hateful speech, abuse masquerading as free speech. No one has a right to bigotry in this country. Bigotry is always wrong. Racism has no place in our modern Australia, arguably the best country in the world. We should put in 2014 the politics of prejudice behind us. That is not who we aspire to be in the future. We need to rise above the confusing din and the sinister undertone that has too often merged the questions of population, border security and immigration into one unedifying shouting match beloved of internet trolls. All of us, Australians by birth and Australians by choice, should be proud to live in the country that is the best hope of so many. We should be proud of the fact that across the lands of the world, we are the nation of the second chance for all. We should recognise that welcoming migrants is not just a duty that a safe and civilised nation owes its region and the world. Welcoming migrants is, always has been, always will be, the driver of our national prosperity, the foundation of our national success. Friends, tonight You've seen some remarkable accomplishments and some remarkable finalists. But I know that these examples you've seen tonight remind us that the miracle of multicultural Australia, the nation-building contribution of migration, cannot be chalked up to good fortune alone. Our good fortune to be a migrant multicultural nation is the product of hard work by every generation, and this current generation is certainly fulfilling its obligations. It's a privilege to present the Caseworker of the Year award tonight. The Caseworker of the Year. Caseworkers are the people on the ground. You are the people who know. You can identify those miseries, those uncertainties in the streets and cul-de-sacs of Australian suburbs as new migrants come to terms with what is a remarkable but all too often strange and unfamiliar country. Caseworkers every day help new arrivals adapt. Caseworkers, in my experience, are modest people. Any of these finalists tonight, as will become clear, are modest people. And like all truly modest people, I believe they do not realise how much they are loved by the rest of us. They are teaching English. They're helping with the financial problems. They're providing employment advice. They're helping with the legal issues. But above all else, our caseworkers provide people with a sense of stability, of certainty. They are the first familiar, friendly face outside their own communities, which provide new arrivals to the view that in Australia, their new country is on their side. Caseworkers are literally the human GPS to help newcomers navigate our rules and our customs. You give tired and worried people in an unfamiliar country a peace of mind that can make all the difference. All of you are special. All of you make the miracle of the Australian story richer and deeper. Thank you for what you do.